Should the Chicago Bulls look to re-sign Nikola Vucevic? And what are the implications if we do or don't? We're going to talk about all that and more in today's episode of the Windy City Breeze, man. Listen, I appreciate every one of you all. If you can, do me a favor, hit that bell, like, share, subscribe. We just crossed 18,000. Really appreciate you all. Thank you for the continued support. Let's get into the topic, man. So Nikola Vucevic is actually a free agent. And we knew that at this as the season ended, he's been one of those players in which we've had this very love-hate relationship when it comes to his production and how he fits on this particular team. If you go and just do a quick Google, Twitter, even any social media search on Nikola Vucevic, you're going to see a huge disparity between those who like and those who hate Nikola Vucevic on this team. And some of it is, founded. I mean, there have been games in which we want more out of him, but there's a lot of it that has absolutely nothing to do with him as a player and more to do with the system and how he's being played with the Chicago Bulls, in my opinion. It's more of a Billy Donovan thing. And the funny thing is, we had such high expectations this season that most people aren't willing to sit there and actually peel back the layers and see why this season ended the way it did. We just want to immediately chalk it up to certain injuries, but I am very adamant that it is a matter of Billy Donovan really trying to figure out who his guys were, who to run offense through, and in the sauce of all of that, Nikola Vucevic was impacted, and also Patrick Williams, if we want to be honest with you. But sticking with the Vucevic topic, this is something that I have always said. You won't find many big men with his skill set in this league. Now, Arturas, when he made this trade for Nikola Vucevic, I thought it was a good trade. We had Wendell Carter. We traded Wendell Carter and some other pieces. Now, those other pieces evolved into something different. Hindsight is 2020. We back. You can't sit there and say, "Oh, we Nikola Vucevic, if he was given an option to, was is better than most of those options or that we were traded for, that he was traded for." So I don't look at that. I look at more of Billy Donovan and how he utilized him. If as I look back in Billy Donovan's career, he hasn't had much experience with actually having a center or a big man with Nikola Vucevic's skill set. In fact, Vuce, I believe, and I don't quote me on this when I looked it up, but I mean it's touch and go. But Billy Donovan has a lot of experience with combo guards, dynamic playmakers from the guard or forward or small forward position, those. But the big men always seem to be more rebound, this, that, and the other, and make a couple shots. Nikola Vucevic has a much better skill set than that. In fact, he can be a number one or two option if given the opportunity, in my opinion. Now, most people will sit there and say, no, you can't give Vucevic that. You can't run your offense through that. Well, I challenge you. Give me right now, let's say 7 big men that are better than him. And I say 7 because the league is taller now. Giannis is considered a big man. Embiid just won MVP. Jokic is out there doing triple double stuff. I mean, he just put up 30, 17, and 17 the other day. Like, those are your outliers. Those are your superstars. But then there's your all stars, and then there's where you're really good, serviceable journeymen, stuff like that. When you tear it down, Vooch may not be a superstar, but he definitely is not just your serviceable journeyman. Like, he's definitely somewhere in between that potential all star role. And he doesn't get played like that. Vucevic by himself has said that he would like to take less threes, which is something that a lot of the individuals within these comments that you see have always said against him. Why is he taking so many threes? And I'll be honest with you, if you just watch the game, it's almost like he was kind of forced to in some instances. It was the best shot available. The spacing on the floor was so poor. The opportunity to get him the ball in a particular spot without him actually being doubled because everyone knew that the Bulls didn't have shooters. Like, if you really look at it without a biased view and you just really try to understand it, Vooch was in a situation where even with him averaging double digit rebounds, he was always majority of the time the only Bulls jersey down there getting the boards. In the paint just wasn't really our forte because, again, no point guard. So being able to put him in the right position was bad. One of our star players needed to be close to the paint, dominate back to the basket. DeMar DeRozan. I'm not. That's not a knock. It's just the reality of it. So it kind of pushed Vooch further and further away from what I feel his natural game is. Now, I'm saying a whole lot. What is the point? Should we resign him? I think we should. I think Nikola Vucevic is not the problem. I don't think that's all. In fact, I think that he would still thrive if he was made more of a second option and not a third option. I do not believe that you can have Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan and Vucevic and expect that to work out the way it does. I do feel like you need to eliminate one of those dominant ball dominant guards to make this work. You've seen big man and guard tandems work. We've seen it work throughout the course of history in the NBA. I don't think this is any different. We've seen it all the way back from when before I was born. It doesn't change. There's a lot of different guard and center tandems that you can say absolutely got it done. It's very rarely do you see a guard and a forward get it done. And what I mean by forward, I'm talking about small forward. The only time I've actually really seen it accomplished is Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen. And look at who I had to name to make that comparison: Michael freaking Jordan and Scottie freaking Pippen. But we've seen Kobe and Shaq. All right, Kobe and Shaq. Give it. We've seen Kobe and Powell. We've seen. You can actually see how far the Celtics got when they had Time Lord and how effective he was in that two-man game that Jalen Brown was able to run with him and sometimes Jason Tatum. I've been very adamant to say, hey, I love what Celtics have, but I think they have too much. And one of those, I think they play better with one of those individuals not necessarily there. You can actually watch their games and you can see, especially late game, the ball is centered on one side of the floor. Jalen Brown is on the other side, just waiting for that opportunity. They haven't really figured that part out. But at the same time, there's two guys who do the exact same thing that's not Golden State. Like there are some outliers in that situation. What does that all mean for the Chicago Bulls? I really feel like if you allowed Zach and Vooch the opportunity to cook and have gave them a point guard, you now have a threat in the post. You now have a threat on the perimeter, and now you have someone orchestrating that whole thing. With some of the pieces we have, we would actually be a better team. Now, that doesn't mean I don't like DeMar, things of that nature, but I do personally feel that DeMar's presence and how he plays impacts how you can utilize Vucevic. And so that's why I've been big on that. I also feel like his impact has also cost Patrick Williams some development. Now, it was a necessary evil. DeMar needed to be there. DeMar needed to be there when Zach was hurt. DeMar needed to be there when P. Will was sitting there not shooting when they were asking him to shoot. DeMar needed to be there when Vooch wasn't sitting there cooking, or be there with Vooch to actually keep us in a lot of these games. This is no hate on DeMar DeRozan. Great player. I absolutely love his game. It's all about fitting where we want to go as an organization and what I see. And that's just my opinion. I'm not saying that is right. Again, I'm not here to sit there and say I want someone traded, things of that nature. But I am just looking at how I see the game and how I would prefer it to be placed with you. And so the reality of it is, Vooch has not benefited in this system because there was no way to actually establish him the right way. There was no point guard to actually put him in a position. There was everyone else. I mean, Zach is a two guard. He's a shooting guard. He shoots and he guards. Ain't no pass in that. It's a Kobe Bryant reference. But anyway, but that's what I want Zach to do. I want Zach to take, if you've been watching the playoffs, I want Zach to be Devin Booker. I want him to go out there and get a bucket. That's what we pay him to do. That's what he's good at. Let that man cook. I'm not trying to sit there and have him orchestrate the whole offense. I want him to do what he's good at. And guess what? Going back into a position-based basketball has worked wonders. Guess what? I know a guy who wore Chicago Bulls jersey in a position-based NBA. They got six of them things. I'm not saying that Zach is that level, but I'm just saying that it kind of makes sense when you really think about it. Vooch, to me, is someone who we can absolutely build with. Now, it's not a long-term thing. Not a long-term thing. I want people to understand where I'm coming from. I want you to understand that Vucevic, to me, is someone who can help us contend and play more of a, I would say, better of a role than Al Horford plays for the Celtics. I truly believe that. I think he's a better player than Al Horford. I think he gives you just as much production. I think he can shoot just as well if given opportunity. And if you allow him to, he can. There's not many big men who can absolutely beat him on the dribble. But I want to hear what your thoughts are, man. I think that we should still have him on the roster. I think that he should not only be on the roster, they should re-sign him. And I don't think that I see stupid stuff that say people want him to get paid 50 million over 3. That's not the market. It is absolutely not the market. We have to do better than that. He's going to get paid what he's worth, and he's worth over 20 a year. It just is what it is. I don't know why everyone has these 1990, early 2000 salary guides or goals for these players, but the money's gone up for these positions. Stop with the low ball. All right. But I want to hear what your thoughts are. Whether you love it, whether you hate it, put it in the comments, man. We'd love to. I'll be in there interacting with you as well. Sincerely hope all of you all again like, share, subscribe. Again, we just crossed 18,000. Really appreciate everyone who checked us out. And man, be on the lookout for more of this great content, man. Sport PK. Peace.